Good evening and welcome. We are now just about through day 4 of this ongoing senseless U.S. war with Iran that does nothing for America. It doesn't bolster our national security or economic interests. It doesn't make you safer or more rich or prosperous. It certainly won't provide you with any additional individual liberties, but yet here we are. And I think it's safe to say that things are not going the way our occupied government said they would. Things aren't going the way the online influencer class, the paid 7,000 shekel proposed propagandists told the American people they would, as they beat the war drums and rallied for yet another generation of young white American men to be fed into the meat grinder and to be sent to the Middle East to lay down their lives once again and die for Israel. At this point, at least 6 Americans are dead. I have every reason to believe that those numbers are far higher than that, and that, I don't know, our government might be lying to us about casualty numbers. They have done it every single time, and if that's true in this case, it certainly won't be the last time that they lie. And why wouldn't they? Because again, things are just not going the way so many of us were told for all of these years that they would. And the propaganda continues through the Fox News machines in so many Americans' living rooms. Iran is being portrayed to the American public as another Iraq or another Libya. You know, just a vast desert without a whole lot of civilization, not much going on outside of its capital city, but that's just not true. Iran is a real country. And now they're fighting a war like a real country. Tel Aviv is getting absolutely blasted. The Iron Dome is failing. Missiles are raining down on the gayest city on earth. And it's not just Tel Aviv. It's not just Israel. In fact, the Gulf states are getting pounded largely because America has diverted virtually all of its missile defense resources to Israel. So the United States government has left U.S. interests and U.S. citizens, not just our troops, but the business people and the laborers who do contract work for American companies in places like Saudi Arabia, completely undefended so that they can waste all of their counter-missile munitions protecting the Israelis. Don't just take it from me. Take it from the Saudi Arabian government itself. They're standing around with their mouths hanging open, acting shocked that the U.S. government sold them out on behalf of Israel. Watch.
الدفاع الأمريكي مركز على إسرائيل دون دول الخليج التي تقع فيها كثير من القواعد العسكرية. وما في شك أنا في تقديري وأعتقد أن هناك يعني نوع من العتب الخليجي على الحليف أو الشريك، إذا وصفناه بدقة، الشريك الأمريكي الذي يركز على أمن إسرائيل واستقرار إسرائيل وسكان إسرائيل دون الاهتمام بالجوانب الدفاعية في دول الخليج العربية التي تتعرض اليوم لاستهدافات إيرانية دون جهد أمريكي.
He's acting like he didn't see this coming. He should have saw this coming. And look, it's not incumbent on America to protect or defend Saudi Arabia. It's not incumbent on America to defend or protect anyone but ourselves, which is exactly what our military should be doing. They should be on our own borders, not anywhere else on earth. But in the America-last world that we live in, for decades, we have had a huge military presence in Saudi Arabia. It was never really there for the Saudis. It was always there for Israel. And now the Trump administration is proving that. And so as a result, Iranian missiles are shooting through the skies, hitting everything from skyscrapers to airports to the U.S. Embassy. I mean, we have the footage. Take a look at this. So that's the U.S. Embassy in Saudi Arabia. It was hit by multiple drones. According to recent reports, the roof is now collapsing. We are told, at least by this government and by its media apparatus, that all of the personnel had already been evacuated by the time the drones hit. But there's a lot of symbolism in what we just saw there. The U.S. Embassy is going up in smoke because rather than defend what's supposed to be a slice of sovereign American soil in a foreign country, the Trump administration defends Israel instead from the natural consequences of a war with Iran that Israel itself started, which we can talk about in just a few minutes. But as far as these embassies are concerned, the U.S. Embassy in Saudi Arabia is not the only one that's been hit. An Iranian drone attack struck the embassy in Kuwait the country where multiple American pilots were shot down allegedly by friendly fire in the middle of an air battle with the Iranians. The U.S. Embassy in Jordan has been evacuated, while in Iraq, the embassy came under a full-fledged attack, not just from the skies, but on the ground. Watch this footage. And that's not an isolated incident. Karachi, Pakistan has been under attack for 2 days. Their Marine Corps embassy guards have had to shoot and kill at least 10 of the attackers. We have video footage of that too. So after watching those videos, it has become very evident that the Trump administration bit off more than they can chew here, that they're getting more than they bargained for in the Middle East. We were told going into this that the U.S. would be running a very short air and missile campaign that would completely decapitate the Iranian regime, destroy the nukes that they don't have, that they never had, and that life would go on. But that was never going to happen. Right now, American ground troops are being prepared to go rolling into Iran and possibly elsewhere in the Middle East, because as you saw in those videos, it's not just the Iranians. People all over the Middle East are ready to fight to the death against this U.S.-Israeli war machine that has crushed their civilizations for their entire lives. These people can see exactly what's happening here because they live it every single day. The United States at this point is nothing more than the military arm of the Talmudic tricksters of Tel Aviv. And Jerusalem and Greater Israel in our own government admit that. Marco Rubio, Miriam Adelson's favorite little Secretary of State, admitted that yesterday multiple times, actually, as he said that the United States entered this war with Iran because Israel said so.
The United States conducted this operation with a very clear goal in mind. I haven't had a chance to see a lot of reporting. I don't understand what the confusion is. Let me explain it to you, and I'll do it once again as clearly as possible. Perhaps you'll report it that way. The United States is conducting an operation to eliminate the threat of Iran's short-range ballistic missiles and the threat posed by their Navy, particularly to naval assets. That is what it is focused on doing right now, and it's doing quite successfully. I'll leave it to the Pentagon and the Department of War to discuss the tactics behind that and the progress that's being made. That is the clear objective of this mission. The second question that's been asked is, why now? Well, there's two reasons why now. The first is it was abundantly clear that if Iran came under attack by anyone, the United States or Israel or anyone, they were going to respond and respond against the United States. The orders had been delegated down to the field commanders. It was automatic, and in fact, it bared to be true, because in fact, within an hour of the initial attack on the leadership compound, the missile forces in the south and in the north, for that matter, had already been activated to launch. In fact, those had already been pre-positioned. The third is the assessment that was made that if we stood and waited for that attack to come first before we hit them, we would suffer much higher casualties. And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act.
So he just admits it straight up. Israel was ready to roll. Israel was attacking Iran, so Trump fell in line and did what he was told, which was to attack Iran. This isn't a war for America. This was never a war for America. This isn't a war to protect our ships or our people from Iranian missiles. If you've heard that, that's just an excuse that they made up in some meeting room when they realized that the media wasn't going to stop asking questions. What the hell is this war really all about? Nobody has been able to give a straight answer, by the way, but toward the end of that video clip, Marco Rubio, maybe unintentionally, gave the clearest answer he's ever given his entire political career. This is a war for Israel. He made that abundantly clear, and so have his colleagues. And so has the United States military, where now service members are being investigated and removed from duty actually declared threats to national security if they're found to be questioning Israel or not offering enough vocal support on the internet for America's greatest ally.
So after 20 years of service in the military, yesterday I got pulled into an officer's office and counseled for posts that I have on my social media. During the counseling, they told me I'm under investigation as a threat to national security. When I asked for proof, like what the posts were yesterday, they refused to give it to me. They made me come back today to further go over stuff. They gave me the proof, and the proof they gave me are anti-Israel posts. Now, when I joined the military, I took an allegiance to support the United States of America. I did not ever take an allegiance to support Israel. But yet, I am deemed a threat to national security because I do not support Israel and their genocide against the Palestinian people. Yes, you heard that right. I am deemed a threat to national security because I don't support Israel's genocide against the Palestinian people. Since when does not supporting a foreign nation get a U.S. soldier investigated for being a threat to national security?
That guy is wearing an American military uniform, not an Israeli military uniform like what Congressman Brian Mass wears to work in D.C., but a U.S. Army uniform. But you see, because the U.S. is now an Israeli Jewish colony and because the United States Army is under the command of the IDF, American service members have to swear their allegiance to Israel. That's who's running this war. It's Israel. It all comes back to Israel and the expansion of Israel's borders. Americans are going to be sent to die in Iran so that Benjamin Netanyahu can go down in history as the genocidal Jewish terrorist who made Greater Israel a reality. And they're not just going to die in Iran. Unfortunately, Israel wants this war to spread, and they will get that. They want this war to be fought all over the Middle East. They want the entire region and then the entire world to burst into flames so that then they can rule over its ashes. And as such, just a few days ago, they have already been caught trying to carry out false flag attacks. Mossad agents were actually arrested in Qatar for doing just exactly that. Tucker Carlson reported on this.
Now, that wasn't a risk from the Israeli standpoint. That was the point. That was the point. They wanted to diminish the Gulf, and in 2 days they have. And I think anyone who likes decency and order and cleanliness is hoping that the Gulf will recover. The Gulf is not a threat to us. We have military bases in these countries. These are some of our closest allies. All of them are closer allies than Israel, by far. They're our friends, but they've been really hurt. And in a place like Dubai, which is basically part of a country, it's an emirate within the United Arab Emirates, but it's also a luxury brand, basically. People go to Dubai because it's beautiful and rich and clean, and above all, because it's safe and orderly. It's got the busiest airport in the world. You start seeing video on Instagram of smoke in the Dubai airport, and you're like, I think I'm going to Cabo this year. Oh, sorry, drug cartels. Whatever. Maybe you go to Sedona this year. It really, really hurts these countries. And Israel wanted to hurt these countries. That's the point. Wanted to hurt these countries. Wanted to sow chaos and disorder because they are rivals of Israel. So it's probably hasn't been reported, but it's a fact that last night in Qatar and Saudi Arabia, authorities arrested Mossad agents planning on committing bombings in those countries. Now, that's weird. That doesn't make any sense. Why would the Israelis be committing bombings in two Gulf countries which are also being attacked by Iran? Aren't they on the same side? No. Israel wants to hurt Iran and Qatar and UAE and Saudi and Bahrain and Oman and Kuwait.
Israel wants to inflict maximum damage everywhere that they possibly can. They have been planning all of this for decades. This is their moment. This is where they go for broke because they have their Shabbos Goy, Donald Trump, in the White House. And it's not just me saying that, it's Benjamin Netanyahu himself. Last night, Netanyahu was on the Fox News channel, big shock, I know, with Sean Hannity, even bigger surprise. And he was bragging about all of the control that he has over the Trump administration. He said that he has been waiting for decades to launch a full-scale war in Iran, and now thanks to Donald Trump, he's been able to see his dreams come true.
Well, you're right. I did have spoken about it for decades, and I try to persuade successive American administrations to take firm action. And President Trump, in his first term, did. He got out of the disastrous Iran deal right off the bat, and he did everything he could to prevent them from going into the nuclear program that they seek to build atomic bombs to threaten us and you, and ultimately to attack both of us and to destroy as much as they can, because this is what these people do. They basically are in the business of mass death, and you're right to call them a death cult. I worked with several presidents. I always appreciated the fact that we had, well, forthright discussions. Often we agreed, but often we didn't. We disagreed. And I appreciated that we kept the alliance going. But I want to tell you something. I'm not a youngster, so I've been around. There's never been a president like Donald J. Trump. His resoluteness, his decisiveness, his clarity of thinking, the way he gets right to the crux of things. It cuts through all the fluff, cuts through the chase, gets down to the main point, and it gets down to the main action that needs to be taken. And I think for Israel, and I think for the countries of the free world, let me tell you, I think for the world, we're very lucky to have him as the leader of the free world, and in fact, the leader of the world. He's brought America back to being the leader of the world, and it makes a huge difference. And I can tell, I'm talking to America's allies in the region, just one by one by one. And I can't quote from these conversations, but I can tell you they all share this, and they all say, thank God that Donald Trump is here. Thank God that the two of you are acting together to remove this threat, not only to you, but to us.
Donald Trump is a bigger cuck than Joe Biden, Barack Obama, George Bush, Bill Clinton, everyone who has sat in that White House since this occupation really took shape following the assassination of JFK. Donald Trump is the ultimate cuck. He's the ultimate Shabbos Goy for Israel. He is at the service. He is on call, at the beck and call of Benjamin Netanyahu 24/7. As that foreign demon goes on American airways to spew his Israeli propaganda to the masses. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is unable to explain to the American people why in the fuck we're in Iran in the first place, other than the fact that he's Bibi's power bottom. So he left it up to Netanyahu, who during that same Fox News interview made the absolutely insane claim that Iran could blackmail America or nuke America if they weren't attacked.
The reason that we had to act now is because they were, after we hit their nuclear sites and their ballistic missiles program, you'd think they learned a lesson. But they didn't, because they're unreformable. They're totally fanatic about this, about the goal of destroying America. So they started building new sites, new places, underground bunkers that would make their ballistic missile program and their atomic bomb programs immune within months. If no action was taken now, no action could be taken in the future. And then they could target America, they could blackmail America, they could threaten us and threaten everyone in between. So action had to be taken, and you needed a resolute president like Donald J. Trump to take that action.
What the hell is he even talking about? Iran is going to blackmail America? Iran is going to blackmail America. Excuse me, but Israel is blackmailing America right now. That's why we are at war. Because Benjamin Netanyahu has a bunker full of tapes showing American politicians like Donald Trump raping kids. Iran doesn't have nukes. They never did. In fact, the Ayatollah actually issued a fatwa against manufacturing nukes in the first place. They weren't even allowed to do it. It was banned by the highest ranking holy man in the entire country, but you didn't know that because the controlled American media like Fox and the Israeli-owned US government don't want you to know that. There's a blackout on that information. Again, Iran doesn't have nukes. They never did, but Israel does. And when Benjamin Netanyahu says things like Iran is blackmailing America or Iran is going to nuke America, he's not making some kind of an unveiled revelation. He's making a direct threat. He's twisting the reality of the real situation that we're currently living under, which is that Israel has blackmail material being held over high-ranking United States government officials, and that Israel has stolen our nuclear material and our nuclear technology, and that now Israel is sitting on top of a nuclear arsenal pointed at the rest of the world, including the United States, dictating every move that we make or else. And right now, the move that we're making is to wage an Israeli holy war, a war for Satan against the Iranians and the wider Islamic world. Yeah, sure, Israel will launch a few airstrikes because they want to be directly involved with the killing. But when push comes to shove and troops are on the ground, they won't be there. They'll be sitting back watching the Goyim kill each other. They already are. Multiple American service members are dead. And they didn't die for America. They died for Israel. And you don't have to be some kind of a J-pilled conspiracy theorist to see it. That's just the reality of the situation on its face. Here's what Megyn Kelly said about all of this on her show last night.
Look, there are massive divisions over what we've done here, and people are going to change their minds over the coming days and weeks, one way or the other. But my own feeling is no one should have to die for a foreign country. I don't think those 4 service members died for the United States. I think they died for Iran or for Israel. I think I understand how this helps Iran perfectly well. I get it. I mean, I hope. Long term, we'll see. But they seem rather jubilant. 80% of the country does not support the Ayatollah. He was a terrible, terrible man. No one's crying that he's dead. No normal person. But our government's job is not to look out for Iran or for Israel. It's to look out for us. And this feels very much to me like it is clearly Israel's war. Mark Levin wanted it. It's his war. Ben Shapiro, Lindsey Graham, Miriam Adelson. That's obvious.
Okay, so credit where it's due. It's no secret I have been a detractor of sorts of Megyn Kelly's. I've been a critic of Megyn Kelly's in times past. But you know what? I applaud that. I salute that. She didn't have to say that, but she did. I see the replies. I see the chat. Stu, Megyn Kelly, she's a self-proclaimed Zionist. You know what? Maybe that's true. In fact, it probably is. But you know what? So was Charlie Kirk until he wasn't. And I aired that clip to illustrate just exactly that. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what's in your background. For Megyn Kelly, for Tucker Carlson, it was Fox News. For me, it was bounty hunting. It doesn't matter what your previous programming was or what you previously believed. If you're being bare naked honest, everyone, if they are being honest with themselves, everyone should be able to very easily see the truth here. And the truth is that now more than ever, Americans are being led directly into harm's way. They're being led directly to their deaths so that their lives can be sacrificed on the altar of Israel, on the altar of greater Israel. The catastrophic repercussions that this war will have on this country and the rest of the world are just unimaginable. They're hideous. Israel's already getting caught running false flag operations in Qatar. Can you imagine what they have in store for the United States? I mean, this is a war that is not supported in any way, shape, or form by the American people. An absolute majority of Americans are diametrically opposed to what our government is doing here. And that includes members of the United States military. We've already got dead Americans. Okay, we've already got a couple of hundred dead schoolgirls in Iran who were just sitting in their classroom when it was blown to pieces during the initial attack. When is enough going to be enough? When are Americans, and not just the American citizenry, but when are American service members going to stand up and say, you know what, we're not fighting another war for Israel. We're not dying for Israel. We are not killing for Israel. We're Americans. When will that happen? I just played the clip. American service members are being investigated. They're being labeled national security threats if they don't support Israel hard enough. What else do you need to see? This military is not working for America. That has become very clear. It's working for a foreign nation. And before this goes any further, American service members need to start pushing back. American service members need to start refusing orders. Walk away from your control board. Shut it down. Walk away from your duty stations. Put down the flight suits. Put down the guns. Stop flying drones into Tehran. Stop shooting missiles into elementary schools. You can right now save the lives of countless people by refusing to go along with the demonic slaughter that has been planned for us. Americans shouldn't be fighting wars for this occupied government and its handlers. We should be overthrowing them. You know, it's just my opinion here. But humbly, I believe that American service members need to put their guns down. They need to put down the Xbox controllers that they use to guide these precision-guided missiles that they are training on schools. Where we now, the United States government, not we as in you and I, we as in America, as in the United States, as in the American military, is guiding precision-guided missiles towards schools and blowing up hundreds of school children. Really? You're just going to keep on doing that? Just going to keep participating in this war where now it's been made evidently clear by the head of the State Department, Marco Rubio, who said the only reason why we are in this war with Iran at all whatsoever is because Bibi Netanyahu is calling the shots because Israel wouldn't take no for an answer. They dragged us into this war. I don't know who could have predicted that. I don't know if there was anybody yelling and screaming with a bullhorn on top of the tallest building he could find, warning everybody that this was exactly what was going to happen, that it was guaranteed, that it was baked in, that Iran was the last domino to fall, and now they're talking about taking Turkey. Bahrain, that port is completely destroyed. Let me just ask you this. We have carrier strike groups out there. They are accompanied by battleships and gunships and destroyers and subs. What's going to happen when these gunships, when these battleships, when these destroyers, what's going to happen when they run out of diesel fuel and ammunition? You know the Strait of Hormuz is closed, right? It's closed. Bahrain is completely destroyed. It's non-existent. It's a military installation that had no business existing in the first place at all. As we told all of these Gulf states, we'll keep you safe. We'll keep you safe. Just allow us to stick our missiles and stick our men as bait, as cannon fodder, to eventually be fed into this meat grinder for Israel. Just let us stick our U.S. military bases all over in your respective countries, and we'll keep you safe. Meanwhile, we left them completely unguarded, while all of our air defense systems and advanced weaponry went to protect Israel for all of these years, and now they are getting completely decimated as we leave them abandoned for Israel. Hundreds of American service members are dead. We had no business being there in the first place. It is well known. It's indisputable. It's irrefutable. It is a well-documented, widely accepted fact that Benjamin Netanyahu is the reason why we ever put these military installations in the sand in the first place. The reason why we were in Iraq in the first place was because Benjamin Netanyahu lied to Congress, lied to the American people, and said that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction, that he had ties to Al-Qaeda. This guy is still walking around free. This guy is flying in and out of our country. This guy is the most frequented visitor to the White House, to the Oval Office. This guy has warrants by the ICC for war crimes. He is a war criminal. He's a wanted war criminal who we have watched in 4K blow up everyone and everything that gets in the way of Greater Israel. Since October 7th, we have watched him lay waste to everything. Nothing is off limits. Men, women, children, schools, hospitals, libraries, churches, all of it. Rubble, bent steel, buried below it is bones of dead kids. And Trump Gaza. That's what we're talking about. Building Trump Gaza. Who is still holding on to their guns, putting on those flight suits, and running on these episodes, these bombing campaigns? Who in the world would want this? And let me mark my words. I predicted this. I'll just tell you right now. Boots on the ground is inevitable. Have you looked at the terrain of Iran? We mentioned the water access. We mentioned the Strait of Hormuz, which is closed. It's controlled by the Iranians. You're a sitting duck if you try to take Iran by water. They have tens, probably hundreds of thousands of these cost-effective intercontinental ballistic warheads. What happens when those sailors run out of fuel? What happens when they run out of missiles? Serious question. What happens? They can't get into port. They can't leave. They're stuck. The Strait of Hormuz is closed, and the port Bahrain doesn't exist anymore. It's been leveled, completely destroyed, while hundreds of service members were blown up. So it's just my opinion that this death trap, and have you considered, by the way, the idea that once this bloodletting, once this blood sacrifice ritual has reached its all-time high and the warmongering propaganda has reached its all-time high, and we're at war with Turkey and we're just toppling every domino that stands in the way or provides any resistance at all toward the conquest of Greater Israel, what would make you think that as World War III, which at that point is baked in and guaranteed, you have violated every single international treaty known to man? You understand, this is a NATO country. Turkey is a NATO country. Hello? And we're talking about taking Turkey, getting Turkey out of the way for Israel. Once that happens, you don't believe that Russia and China, the gloves will come off. Katie bar the door. There are no more rules to engagement. And at that point, you don't think that when we're discussing boots on the ground, that they will be on the ground here on our ground? You don't think that there will be boots on our ground? Think about Iran. Think about putting boots on the ground. First of all, to effect a regime change, a real one, because we have not seen a regime change in Iran. Have you seen the streets of Iran? We have not effected a regime change there. All we have done is kick the hornet's nest. It would take 500,000. It would take 500,000 service members on the ground to effect and then maintain a regime change in Iran. A regime change that nobody wants. Nobody wants it. Do you think that the people of Iran want anything that the Rothschild central banksters have to offer? Anything that the American war empire has to offer? They are going to resist this at every turn. The waterways are controlled by the Iranians. Then you have mountains, just like in Afghanistan. What happened in Afghanistan, in the mountains of Afghanistan? The United States military couldn't even handle itself against low IQ goat herders in these mountains, in these caves. That's all over Iran. Iran has deserts. How do weapons of war and how do human beings respond to desert-like conditions over extended periods of time? Not very well. Not very well at all. And then you have urban environments. This is not some third world backwater, some isolated hole. This is a civilized Persian country of Aryans. And then you would have urban warfare. They are entrenched and embedded everywhere that you could possibly imagine and have vowed to resist any kind of regime change operation offered up by the Zio-American military-industrial complex. Vietnam would look like child's play. So yeah, American service members right now need to put down their guns, need to put down the Xbox controllers that they're using to guide these missiles and guide these drones, and they need to refuse. And then the people who ordered all of this up at the behest of Israel, this is textbook treason. It is textbook treason. Donald Trump activated our military and went and killed people, went and killed kids, schoolgirls, by the hundreds for another nation, to the detriment of American service members who are now dead, to the detriment of America. Economically, our national security has been significantly implicated here and detrimentally impacted. We are less safe and in more danger as a result of all of this. And Donald Trump did all of this at the behest of another nation, killing children on behalf of Israel.